Hello, faithful listener. This week was supposed to be the end of the couples month, but unfortunately, a few of us were sick and couldn't record. So our live recording of couples month, or I should say current recording of couples month, and the conclusion of that will hopefully be next week. And this week, for this issue, we are going to be pulling out of the backlog, and you will have the Marvels to enjoy. So sorry about that. And this was not our plan. And unfortunately, life happens, illness happens, and we hope you enjoy this backlog episode.
Ding.
Dang it.
I'm Patrick.
This is Will.
And I'm Chris, and we are Guys with Issues. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I was afraid that Will wasn't going to participate. I thought he was going to argue.
I think there was that twinkle in his eye.
He was like, do I do as I've asked for this one time? Or am I going to be the villain again in Chris's real life editing moments?
Right? Good luck editing this in 2 hours.
Oh, man. That was funny. I genuinely wasn't sure if he was going to do it.
I wasn't either.
It's because he is antagonized us in those moments prior.
Right.
So there was no telling.
I've got a criminal history.
That's true. Oh, that's yeah, he's got a rap sheet.
Right.
Yeah. What a bunch of a-holes.
Right?
Anyway, so today we're going to talk about Marvels. Good luck trying to Google this, because if you type in Marvels comic, it's going to bring up The Marvels because of the movie.
Yep.
And it's a pain in the butt to
Yes,
find
it
anything
is.
about this comic book now. So our apologies to that. You're either going to have to try to find it in a physical form, or Google searching it on Marvel Unlimited is pretty useful. That came up pretty quickly.
As long as you don't type the word "the," just
It's Marvels. It's
not
Marvels.
the Marvels.
Yes.
Only Marvels.
And put it in quotes. That might help.
For Google, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's true. I could see that. So, yeah, this isn't the Marvels. This is Marvels that came out in 1994.
Me too.
Oh, my.
Really?
Yeah, I came out in 1994.
Yeah, so
Thanks, Mom.
we wow. Alex Ross drew this. He's a pretty famous dude. Draws things that look super realistic.
Was he at Fan Expo?
I don't think so.
Was there a Ross?
Maybe.
I thought that
I don't know.
the name Ross kind of rung a bell.
But Alex Ross is super famous. He's done stuff for Marvel and DC. Does artwork that looks like realistic. Like
yeah.
the artwork's like painted and stuff. So anyway, and the writer, since we've been trying to do this a little better, Kurt Busiek.
Mm-hmm.
He's done other things, but nothing that like my brain immediately goes to. So not that he doesn't do things that are a big deal. He's just done a lot of stuff over the years. He's a pretty big comic writer. But anyway, yeah. So before that, we have any nonsense? Anybody got anything?
So I want to be honest.
Are you sometimes not honest?
He's pretty much honest.
Sometimes
Most of the
I'm
time.
not, but most of the time
I was going to say the vast majority of the
Vast
time.
majority of the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes
So
I'm
when you say you're
probably too
busy
honest.
tomorrow,
Now stop. I want to know what he was going to say, okay?
all right.
What were you
continue.
going to say?
So I'm going to be honest. I'm kind of hankering for a sandwich.
Oh, man, we're back to sandwiches. That could be a callback from months ago now.
Could be.
Man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, wait. Didn't you get a sandwich since our episode?
I did, but
Oh, for Matt Anthony's. You
Right.
said theirs was pretty good.
it was pretty good.
You eaten any good food lately?
Yeah. You have any restaurants you want to
You
go
have
to?
any? What'd you guys think of that okurochi?
Yeah, I thought it was really cool.
I thought
That
it was good.
nice. I'm going to go back.
I thought it was good.
Yeah, that ramen was legit.
I thought that the ramen was comparable to Three Crowns.
I need to get that ramen.
I liked your rice.
What?
See, if I go back, I'd
That
get
rice,
the rice.
I know, it was really,
the rice
really
was really good.
Yeah.
That's sushi though. Those raw scallions, those are scallops. That was good.
I might have to get some sushi.
But anyway,
Sounds like I have to
Yeah.
go back more than once.
okay.
Oh, darn.
Darn it.
Dang.
And for authentic ramen, it's reasonably priced. It's the same as what it would cost anywhere.
Right.
Yep.
But anyway, have you had anywhere interesting besides okurochi recently?
Nope.
I like that.
Just kind of been no-lifing it here recently.
That's probably okay though, right?
Yeah, it's good on the wallet.
Yeah, I believe that. Although I never hear from you. Like, I'll hear from you on occasion,
Yes.
but I oftentimes just hope you're alive.
Me too.
So what about once a week when he posts artwork?
That's my life check. Is well, we know
he's alive. He's alive. He
Oh,
posted.
we got artwork. Yep, he's still good.
Really, he was hanging onto the edge of the desk, just like dragging it to the
At
file.
least they'll finally that'll get to upload. Ugh.
One last Arby's. Oh, wow. That is, yeah.
Good
Yep.
times.
Good times.
Yeah. You mentioned the one time, though, that is your phone still the problem or your location or what is it?
I
Sometimes
think
you said
so,
sometimes
like,
you
'cause
don't get messages.
Yeah, sometimes it just like
Our friend
cuts
Melissa
out.
was saying she hasn't heard from you for like weeks.
Yeah, it's not unusual though. I did message her today though.
Well, that's
So-
good to say you were going to the party.
Yeah, like hey,
PRTY, because I've gotta.
That's right.
Yeah.
because I
Anyway,
got a party.
because you got a party.
So
You gonna
Pat-
talk like that too? We're gonna talk like that the whole podcast.
I mean, we can if you want.
Ugh.
I don't know how well
What
I
if-
can, though.
What if that's how we talked all the time? Be weird.
That would be very strange.
Moving on.
Anyway,
And how?
so you got a synopsis.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done.
Talking like that?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
What if I just read the synopsis like
This podcast is off the rails.
It's disrupt. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are we gonna okay. So in this in the Marvels, we follow the career of a photographer
It's
named
Marvels.
Phil.
Just
Just
the
Marvels. I messed that up anyway. It's got a unique twist that tells a superhero story from the perspective of an ordinary citizen as he is coming to terms with being powerless in a new world of superheroes. Phil is there to capture battles between foes, weddings between heroes, and works to create a more appreciative tone towards the heroes that come to save them from destruction, time and again. And it ends. Because I had a really hard time writing a synopsis for this one.
yeah. So
Because it's just like, what I read it, and it's like, what actually happened?
Yeah.
well, what the Marvels is.
Marvels, not the Marvels.
Dang it.
Yeah.
We need a
Pat's the
buzzer
winner.
every.
I gotta keep you guys on your toes.
Yeah,
So what,
I'm the disruptor, past the corrector.
The corrector.
Yeah.
And I'm.
That means you're the structure.
I was gonna say professor.
That works too.
But Marvels is Marvel
You
Comics.
did it again.
I said Marvels.
You
I
said
didn't say
the-
that.
you
No, I
did.
did not.
Roll it back.
But Marvels. But Marvels. But I did not say the.
So he was.
Stop it.
I don't think he meant it as.
I said Marvels.
He's like, so the.
He
I
did.
didn't say. I
did
said
he
so
start-
Marvels. We're going to put money on it.
Okay.
I'm good with
29 minutes.
He's gonna owe us that sandwich.
Yeah, fine. If I said I'll buy the sandwiches. And if I didn't, then Patrick, you're buying my sandwich.
that. Yeah, okay.
We're betting sandwiches.
We're betting sandwiches.
That is such an us thing. I got a cookie on it.
What if you made a poker set that was all like
Food
sandwiches,
stuff,
so like,
pies,
it's like cookies,
bread.
Bread. Yeah.
Yeah.
Patrick will be.
You got like one set of chips is cookies, one set of chips is chips, one set,
You gotta
like and
you
then
bet
sandwiches.
higher grade meal items.
Yeah.
This has to
Here's
be a
a-
thing. This has to be a thing.
Here's I raise your chips and bring you an ice cream sundae. That would suit our friend group
That would
really
be
well.
amazing.
Oh, I see you you have a sandwich. Well, I'm going to up you a sushi roll.
I got a whole turkey dinner all in.
When you pushed your hands forward, I saw a platter with a turkey on it.
Good.
Oh, shoot. Now the real question is, do I leave that stupid?
Yeah.
Or do I cut it?
Don't do that. Just keep it.
Okay. So Marvels is a retelling of... Man, it's hard to talk like that all the time. It's tough.
Okay.
It's a
How does Optimus
retelling
Prime do it?
of I... What the heck? I am up... No. I can't even focus now.
This is just
This is a mess.
this is a
Yes,
mess.
it is a retelling of events
Of the Marvel
of the Marvel universe,
universe.
from the perspective of the ants.
Yeah, like Aunt May.
AKA the reporters.
Yeah.
So it's all the early day Marvel.
Which I feel like this would hit a little harder if we had actually read like those actual like the events,
Maybe.
because there's one point in which the Fantastic Four are
Fight
fighting
Galactus.
Galactus, yeah, and they're like, oh, they've just disappeared. They haven't shown back up. They must have been defeated. But if you had actually read it, you'd be like, oh no, he's in there, or like they're in there doing this, because then all of a sudden the Thing shows up and punches them.
Right. That's what happens at
It's
the end of
clobbering time.
all of the Fantastic Four. The Thing just shows up and punches them.
Clobbers them.
And
Right.
then Richard Reeds.
Yeah. Reed Richards.
Reed Richards. Well, whatever. His name's backwards. And he's got this little device thing, but they don't really explain it. But if you had actually read that comic, like that Fantastic Four comic, I imagine, talking about that battle, you'd know what that is.
Right.
Yeah, but I think that's part of the point, or what is meant to be the charm of this.
No,
of
like
this
it wasn't
story,
like
though.
super aggravating. I was just like, I wonder if it would have changed
Maybe.
how you experience this comic.
I find it interesting to read a comic that, one, is from the perspective of somebody other than the heroes, in a world with the heroes. And two, that revisits in a world with heroes.
There's
One
a photographer.
One photographer
Is not a
sets
hero.
out to write a book. Because that's really what it is.
I'm going to be honest. I'd watch that TV show.
Follow Phil as he photographs Fantastic Four.
Yeah, he also gets like Iron Man.
He does,
Thor,
and Captain America, and
Cap.
but I like that what they do is they present all of the early days of Marvel through a way that kind of shows you these big events, even if you haven't read it or weren't there when it was coming out. I thought that was kind of cool. I remember when I first read this, just thinking it was such a unique and interesting reading experience. because I think this is the second or third time I've read it. I used to have the issues of it, and I just found it so interesting as an idea because it pulls back from the usual protagonist perspective and these epic stories, and makes you think about the way people are affected by the characters in the universe.
Yeah.
I concur.
I mean, when I was reading it, I kind of was reminded of the beginning of Batman versus Superman, the movie, because
With Bruce Wayne in Metropolis.
yeah, when Superman and Zod, I think it is,
Yep.
are fighting, and it's like I watched that movie, and then you see it from this other perspective, and it's like, oh, that's cool because you see Bruce Wayne running around trying to like help people, and he's an ordinary person, and he's like, how do I deal with this? Like, I'm Batman, but I can't fight. These guys are flying through the air, shooting laser beams and
Bringing down buildings.
bringing down buildings. I'm just one man. How do I deal with this? And so it had that kind of same vibe going for it.
Yeah, and that's even kind of what that scene towards the end with Jameson kind of shows
Yeah,
that one of the
yeah.
reasons Jameson hates super people is they make him feel helpless. They make him feel powerless.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you brought up BVS because I didn't even think about that. But really, that's what that opening scene is meant to show as well.
Yeah.
And establish why Batman thinks that having people around like that could be a problem.
Yep.
So, yeah. But yeah, and like I mentioned a little bit earlier, the artwork is really cool.
It was.
They were very well done. Yeah.
There's a few DC storylines that I like. One's called Justice, one's called Kingdom Come, that are also done by Alex Ross, and it's always cool to see his like realistic look for different heroes and how the costumes look, fabric, and all of those things. I think that's interesting. But overall, what were your opinions? Like, what was your thought on this?
I mean, it was pretty good. I did like the fact that you could take pretty much any change and put it into this story, and it would be pretty much the same story.
Any change?
Overall,
What do you mean?
like large societal change.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't necessarily have to focus on superheroes being the change, just anything where people are dismissive of it or they try to tear it down or all that type of stuff, which I found interesting.
Yeah.
That's what I got. What about you, Will?
Yes. So, I don't know. I liked it. But, yeah, I don't know.
This is a heavy
We'll just
discussion
dropping
issue.
that.
Yeah.
I can tell. Like, this
Yeah,
issue
I
is
have
going to have a
philosophy.
lot of really good discussion.
I know, right?
So, I've found that there are a few stories I've read, maybe a couple, maybe it's just two, where they follow a journalist of some type and they deal with a storyline. Civil War Frontline does it as well, although I think it offsets the balance of the storyline of Frontline. I enjoyed that story a lot too, and again, I think it's because it pulls back and you see it from a perspective of like a normal person and trying to get to the bottom of things or trying to look at kind of the effect or impact of these heroes. And Marvel's is really, I find it a cool way for a comic company to be like, hey, check out kind of how the things we've had happen over the years. I thought that it was interesting that you could see it from the beginning, from the Human Torch and the evolution to Iron Man in the Silver Age and things like the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man, like the whole focus on Spider-Man in the final issue, and Gwen Stacy's death and, Captain Stacy's death and then Gwen Stacy's death as well. And all of this stuff to where this character that you're following is really almost looking at superheroes. I like when, they kind of hand you one of the themes on a platter with his assistant towards the end. But really, he almost makes these heroes into something that would be akin to a religion of his. Like he puts all of his trust and faith into the fact that these heroes are going to save the day.
Right.
And then he has to question how he deals with things when they don't. And I feel like this is an interesting comic because, Patrick, you and I, yesterday
Yes.
at launch, discussed different types of storytelling. This would be a character piece.
Okay.
This is a character drama or a character piece or whatever you want to say. It's not a plot narrative, character narrative. This is not a story that is based around the plot that is going on. Each issue has kind of a different focus, even though the overarching thing for a while is him trying to get his book out and stuff. But again, that's about him. It's about him dealing with life in a world with people who are way beyond what he can understand, and how he reacts to them and how the society around him reacts to them. And I told you that I tend to not favor character-driven narratives.
You did.
And this is a good example of that. I enjoy this story. I enjoy it. I enjoy watching his journey through it. But it's hard for me to pin down anything specific about it because I prefer things where the plot is the focus less than the character itself. And this was a character story. It really was. It is about the photographer. It's about Phil. And that is different. It's different than most of what we've read. I would say in a way, Constantine was probably the closest thing to a character story, or Saga. What we read in Saga was probably the closest thing to a character narrative that we've read, aside from this. So, I think it's hard to pin down kind of what this is, what it is meant to be. Because it doesn't have an overarching story. We can't talk about like these plot points and how they lead to this and how it does that, because that's not really what it's about.
I had such a hard time writing a synopsis about it because I'm like, what actually does happen?
Yeah,
Like a lot of things are happening, but at the same time, there's no like main line, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like we see the birth of. Like back in original Marvel comics, we see when Marvel first started, the Human Torch was their first hero, I believe. And so we see the android Human Torch, which is not the same as the Fantastic Four Human Torch later. And we see Namor being a villain who becomes more of a hero later and is a big part of the Fantastic Four storylines as well. We see them team up with Captain America and fight in World War II. And then it moves on, and we see the birth of the mutants and the X-Men and how society hates them.
I was actually going to point that out.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, because you read the first couple of issues, and they kind of are worshiping, not really worshiping, but they idolize the heroes like Iron Man, Thor, but they villainize the mutants, right? And so there's this part in the story. It's almost kind of a plot hole because they don't really tell you whatever happens to her, but Phil almost throws like a brick at the mutant, and everyone's hating him, and he goes home to find that there's this little mutant girl in his basement
being cared for by his daughters and
because him and his wife thought, oh, they found a stray dog. Turns out it's this mutant girl that kind of looks like a fish.
Yeah, a little
and
bit.
he actually tries to go out of his way to find a mutant to talk to be like, hey, I've got this girl. Can you save her? Because I'm worried that they're actually going to like burn my house down and kill me and my family. But then as the story progresses, I don't know what's going on in the X-Men comics, but the mutants just kind of go away. And they aren't talked about.
Well, I think that was the focus of this.
Like I noticed they were absent, and that's when they kind of started turning on, the other heroes and starting to, like, admonish them and kind of like villainize them as being like, oh, you're doing these things, but you're actually hurting people. I don't know. I thought it was.
I think it's a commentary on the idea that society wants to villainize something.
That's what I was pointing out. Like they were using the mutants as a scapegoat, and then all of a sudden the mutants kind of just disappeared from the story. And then that's when I noticed they started going after like Spider-Man, and Iron Man, and like those they want to do those Senate hearings.
Black Widow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really, comic books oftentimes, here's something that would suit a podcast about comic books, right?
Hey, I know one.
What? We're going to talk about the societal impact and effects of comic books. Really, it's the impact of society on comic books. Many times, storylines and characters and things over the years were added or developed based on current events or issues going on in society around comics. Like not around comics, but in society would make their way into comics. And I think that this reflects that. This kind of shows you that comics, oftentimes, the storylines that are played out within them are meant to be reflections on certain aspects of society and idealism and things like that that are then brought to life through the mythos of comic books. And I think this captures that of the eras that those heroes were debuted in.
Yeah.
I think it was meant to. During the Galactus story arc in Marvels, they talked about like the atom bomb. Like, nukes are, they said nukes would drop. That's how we're all going to die.
Yeah,
and then it ends up being a giant alien from outer space who wants to eat the Earth. But yeah, like something that I found interesting about this comic series, or I would say short story. It's really 4 issues, right?
Yeah.
It's 4 issues. There's a 5th, but it's just a prelude to the first one.
issue 0, which for whatever reason in the app
Yeah, it puts it last. It's because it came out later than the other ones. It puts it in chronological order.
I wonder.
That's what it is.
I'm like, I'm just gonna read it in the order that the app has it in.
That's what
and
it
I'm
is.
like, it didn't. Issue 0 for that didn't change.
So
You got a little context to the Human Torch.
But that was it. And
it.
it was like 13 pages instead of
Yeah.
the 45 or whatever of all the others. So it was, I'm guessing it was like a special that they did for something like Free Comic Day or something.
Probably.
But yeah, it's an interesting story. The reason I suggested us reading it is because it is so different than what you usually read from comics. And it does capture a lot of that stuff that happened. But anyway, I found myself and maybe it's just me, because as I've gotten older and I have a family and stuff, I tend to be more emotional than I used to be when I was younger. But I actually had a few moments in this comic book that were emotional for me. Like I actually felt myself like get a little like choked up.
When he was with his family, or
specifically, I think one was when he confronted the mutant in the basement. Like finding that this little girl had been abandoned by her family. And I mean, she's literally just a little girl.
like the little mutant girl tells that story of like her parents, like, what was it? They got fired from their job and they couldn't make ends meet, and they couldn't feed anyone, and they told her it was all her fault.
Yeah.
And so she had to leave. And
well, and right before that, they set up his hatred of mutants. They make him feel like society does. And then he's confronted with this little girl that he's like, oh, she's one of them. I hate them. But then he's looking at her and he's like, why would I hate this little girl?
Right.
And it makes him face this like false fear that he's created. And that's really power. I actually felt like that's a challenging thing for anybody. Like to have to face something and deconstruct this idea that you have.
Sure.
Because you're confronted with something completely contrary to what you thought based on it.
But then that's basically that's like the same opposite side of the same coin of what happens to him at the end.
Yeah.
Because at the end, it's his love of superheroes. Like, oh, this is it. And then he has a negative experience in which Spider-Man fails to save
Gwen Stacy.
Gwen Stacy,
Yeah.
which after watching Into the Spider-Verse, I'm like, she's definitely going to die. It's a canon event.
That's why
As
she
soon as I
says
saw her, I'm like, sorry, lady, you're dead. It's written.
So that's another part I got super emotional at because I have
Yeah.
this weird affinity for Gwen Stacy. I grew up loving Spider-Man. And so we're going to end up talking about this by the time this issue comes out, we may have already talked about this actually.
Maybe.
It's possible because one of the stories we're reading or have read
Time is
in
in
this temporal backlog of issues is Spider-Man Blue. We're going to read Spider-Man Blue for February for one of our couples things because it covers Gwen Stacy and Mary Jane for Peter Parker and Betty Brant.
One of our guests, Nick, really likes that comic.
I'm the one that told him to read it. I loaned it.
Yeah.
I think I might have loaned it to him.
I don't know.
I told him I would bring it for him, and he said that's okay. I can read it online, and he read it based on my suggestion.
Yeah.
And he did really enjoy it, and because it really captures who Peter is, and it's largely focused around kind of the relationships he has over time. Well, I'm a big fan of Gwen Stacy. I think it's sad that she had to die and to make way for Mary Jane. And to keep Peter from a status quo of getting married and things, because that's really what the publishers cared about, is keeping him, single and interesting in their eyes. So, so seeing the way they build up Gwen Stacy as a person in this,
Yeah.
and then her death, like having her be this person who lost her dad, and the photographer Phil's talking to her in Marvel's. And they're connecting, and he's growing to appreciate her as a person
Yeah.
and her perspective of Spider-Man. And then to have Spider-Man, in that battle. When you read the comic, what you know is Green Goblin had killed Gwen Stacy. It is not Spider-Man who does, but he believes he did. Like Spider-Man believes the same thing Phil does in Marvel's, which is that catching her is what killed her. And that, because I have this appreciation of Gwen Stacy in the Spider-Man universe, and aside from the whole Across the Spider-Verse stuff, like that's a different Gwen Stacy. That's Spider-Gwen.
I was as soon as I saw her, I thought of like Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, that
and
came
I'm like,
much
ooh,
later.
this isn't going to end well
That
for
came
you.
that came much later. But so because I've always appreciated Gwen Stacy as Spider-Man's like love interest, having to like see this comic build her up as this bright-eyed, innocent youth.
Yeah, the artwork did a very good job of that.
Oh yeah, like her hopefulness and when Namor was invading.
Yeah, and there she's just looking up like, oh, it's like we're in a snow globe, and the light was shining down on her. I'm like, you're definitely
Phil,
gonna die now.
Phil's like, this is why heroes matter. Like this is how, because they protect people like her.
Yeah.
And ultimately, Spider-Man fails to save her.
Yep.
And that creates that paradigm shift in the main character, Phil, in the photographer. But that got me emotionally, like actually reading that, because of how I feel about Peter and Gwen and stuff. It just did, man. Like it totally, I was like, oh, I don't like this.
How funny is it when Phil's like, that little twink Peter Parker, he's always after those dirty little shots to make a quick buck off of Spider-Man.
I also like when he's like, I can't believe a girl, like this nice girl's dating that weasel Parker.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
Mm-hmm.
That was really funny. Patrick's like, I'm sleeping over here.
I'm sleeping.
Keep sleeping, Pat.
But anyway, yeah, sorry. I had to go on my Gwen Stacy rant. That was one of the things I was going to talk about.
Good
So
rant. Do it again.
you're like, let me get some more Z's. Anyway, no, I've talked enough. I was just, that was the one thing I wanted to talk about primarily, was the emotional impact I found in certain scenes, and how you do relate differently when it's a normal person compared to a hero, I think, a little bit.
Sure.
But anyway, Patrick, did you want to say anything about the comic?
No, I'm good.
Okay, did you have a favorite scene?
Yeah, it was when he confronted his beliefs on mutants with that little mutant girl.
Was it?
Yeah, that was my
Yeah.
favorite part.
Yeah, that was good. It was very well done.
Yeah.
Did it make you feel emotional at all? I'm just curious.
Not really.
No? Okay. I just wondered. I think the dad side of me is what made me feel
I
that.
was more thinking to myself during that was, yeah, when you actually get to know the thing you're trying to villainize, it's amazing what happens.
Dude. Isn't that a truth that we can all live by?
It sure is.
Yeah, it is. What about you, Wilhelm?
Oh, I don't know.
Did you have a favorite scene? See, I tried to keep that in mind while I read this because character pieces are hard for me to pick
I
stuff.
tried to keep that in mind, but there's just nothing that really jumped.
It sounds like you liked the scene with Gwen when she
Yeah,
was like
when-
bright-eyed and snow globing.
That was a good scene. They did a really good job setting that up.
They did.
Or he did.
Yeah,
Whatever his name was. Chris?
Kurt.
Kurt? Something with a C?
Yeah, I would say it would be between the scene with Gwen and the mutant girl. Like those were two that just stood out to me.
Yeah.
I thought that they conveyed the emotion of the comic really well. Okay, did you have a favorite character? We gonna do that? I'll say the alien girl though for my scene. Alien, mutant. I think she looks like an alien. You said
does.
fish, but I think alien.
She did kind of look a little freaky.
But mutant girl. That was heartrending, especially when she leaves. That was heartrending. Where she's like, "Hey, I don't want your family to be in danger.
Right.
I left." And he's like, "Is she okay?"
That's almost like not a plot hole, but like a loose end. Or
Oh,
maybe
because
those
you
are
never
plot holes.
know
I kept
that if
expecting,
she's okay.
I kept expecting her to come back.
Well, here's the thing though, because you just follow it from his perspective, like that's very real to life. And that's why character narratives suck. Because they don't care about that stuff. They make
Yeah.
it so it's about the character, and he had his character arc there where he went from hating mutants to understanding and the villainization to the endearment. And then that's all that mattered. And then that's what sucks about character narratives is they don't care about loose ends. Because in real life you have tons of them.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what my soapbox is going to say, because Chris does not enjoy character narratives usually.
Chris has loose ends.
Yeah. We're not going to talk about that.
Oh my.
Anyway, Patruccio, what about you? Any favorite character?
Characters?
Yeah.
Favorite ones?
Do you like it when you like Captain America because he jumps over him at that one scene? No, I'm just kidding.
I really don't think there was any standout characters.
Not even Phil?
Not even.
I was just gonna say Phil.
I was going to say Gwen Stacy.
Predictable.
Because her part that's in it endeared me to her. I already was endeared to her.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the mutant girl because she challenged the main character.
And was brave enough to leave during riots
Right.
to protect their family. She's awesome.
Right. So yeah, I guess that will be my
Mutant girl.
my mutant girl.
Yeah, I don't even think I think she says her name, right?
It's possible.
She does. She says her name because it's like a
I
normal
don't-
person name.
I don't remember what it is though.
But
No,
I'm
I don't
such
remember either. But
Such a
it's,
wonderful person, I forgot.
it's just like people in real life. You can think they're wonderful. You don't remember their name.
Right. Who are you again?
I don't know. Yeah. So Mutant Girl and Phil and Gwen Stacy.
Yep,
That
there we
works. That works. Did you have a least favorite scene?
We just need a sitcom about those three now.
Gwen Stacy alive or dead? Is it the ghost of Gwen Stacy?
Or is it Phil being insane and he's got
Seeing
like
her.
dementia and
She walks
he
around with
sees
her
the-
neck snapped.
He sees like Gwen Stacy and the little mutant girl when he's in like the nursing home and he's just talking to him. His wife is there. And he's
Yeah.
like,
Wow.
Who are you talking to?
That was
Who's
an
Gwen
intro.
Stacy?
That's
Such a dark sitcom, Will.
you need to become a writer.
But you don't know it's him being crazy the whole time until the very end.
Oh.
That's the plot twist. You think it's them coming back to visit, but it's actually
Crazy Phil.
Crazy Phil. so it's funny until it's not.
Right. Sure.
It's funny until it's not. That is the quote of the episode.
Put it on a shirt.
It's funny until it's not. Will. So, did you have a least favorite scene then?
I mean, nothing I can really think of.
No, nothing that stood out as being like.
I mean, I had some like least favorite themes of, like people just pretty much lying, making stuff up about the superheroes and stuff. Just
like
tear 'em
Jameson
down.
and
Yeah.
Spider-Man and all that.
But that's, I mean,
Okay. I mean, that's fine. That was good.
yeah.
What about you, Will? Least favorite? You have a part that stands out as
Least.
you were just like, I didn't really like that.
Favorite part would probably have to be when he lost his eye. I'm just like, what?
To the brick or whatever it
Yeah,
was?
he's just like, I'm gonna run up here, and he lost his eyeball, and I'm like, was that supposed to be like for something? Because then he also went to war, and I'm like,
It made him furious.
nah, I get it.
Go on.
That's what you get out of me.
mean, I
I
guess-
don't deserve
terrible
anything
noise. That's a terrible noise for a mic.
So do you use your nose or your throat when you make that?
Nose. That's a nose sound. You can ask a voice actor that, and they'll be able to tell you. Does that
No,
come from your
it's-
nose or your throat?
That's why I asked you. Yeah, I'm like, he'd know what part.
That was that was a nasal thing. Anyway.
Anyway.
So the brick
Yeah,
to the face.
I'm just like, what was the like? It didn't. I mean, I guess you say like plot lines or something aren't really there and like character driven stories, but I'm just like, it didn't do anything for his character. It wasn't like a point of contention, like, oh, the Human Torch was fighting and I lost my eyeball, because he never really talks
But do you
about
think
it again.
do you think that thematically is what it's supposed to tie to, is the fact that he was affected by the consequences of superhero combat?
I don't know, but he had like no dialogue about it. It's something that happened. He was like, well, I'm off to war. Yeah, he lost his eye, got married, went to war, and came back, had some kids.
The end.
Sounds like a good life to me.
Yeah, you survived war. That was
know,
alone,
right?
right? Yeah. My least favorite scene is the ending.
Oh, when
me
he just
too.
he's got like
The-
2 kids and he finds some random boy that throws newspapers. Like, come
You
over
know-
here, and let's take a photo.
You want to know a fun fact? That random boy is actually the second Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
He becomes Ghost Rider.
You know what
I looked it up.
You know what I wrote in my notes?
What? This boy can't be normal, because he specifically says, you're just a
I
normal
said,
boy.
That was 100% not a normal boy.
Yeah, I looked it up.
And I figured you would let us know why. at
the
some point.
professor. I will.
I've done my research on this.
I appreciate that you believed that I would bring you the answer to your question.
Is that your Gandalf voice?
No, that almost sounded like Bane, though.
A little bit.
I believe that you wanted your question.
You merely adopted the dog. I was born in it.
Anyway,
Anyway,
but yes, that is Danny Ketch is the second Ghost Rider after Johnny Blaze. Johnny Blaze is
So-
still Ghost Rider during it, but somehow he gets Spirit of Vengeance. Something about his sister and gangs.
so what
and
was the
stuff.
kid's name again?
Danny Ketch,
Oh,
I believe.
Never mind.
Ketch as in Ketch, I believe.
Right. For some reason, I thought you said Johnny instead of
No,
Danny.
Johnny Blaze
Right.
is
No,
Ghost Rider.
no, I understand that. I was
Yeah.
going to ask if all Ghost Riders had a first name Johnny.
Oh, it's Johnny's.
Right.
Danny, Johnny.
But I misheard.
Jimmy.
So that's my bad.
It has to be one of those types of
Has
names.
to
though.
have a Y at the end of it.
It does. Preferably 2 ends.
That's good.
Donnie, Danny, Johnny.
Yeah, there's no way I could ever become Ghost Rider.
If you're a girl, Bonnie. So,
With your sidekick Clyde.
what?
With your sidekick Clyde. Bonnie and Clyde. Never mind.
Oh, jeez. So that is,
Wah,
yes, that was
wah.
the joke at the end. He wasn't an average boy.
I didn't think he was.
But I didn't like how abruptly it ended. I didn't like that at all. Like they're like, he's all about the religion of superheroes. Totally sold out for him.
Sure.
Makes his money, makes his
Right.
livelihood. His wife's like, you need to retire. We have plenty of money. We just want you home. We want you around. And he's like, yeah, but I got to clear Captain Stacy. I got to clear Spider-Man on Captain Stacy's death. And I got to do this and I got to do that. And he's like, Gwen Stacy's great. She's going to help me. And then she dies and he's like, Spider-Man didn't save her. And he becomes disillusioned like the rest of society. And he's like, now that I've been directly affected, because it bothered him that nobody cared that Gwen died.
Right.
Which also is an interesting commentary because as comic book readers, we care that Gwen dies because we care that Peter was affected. We as Spider-Man readers might be affected at that Gwen's death happened. But the average citizen of New York does not care. Doesn't care about a girl like Gwen. And his whole point was, it's for the girls like Gwen, it's for the normal people that superheroes are so they're so important. But then he sees that when heroes fail somebody, then that impacts him directly. It isn't just an idea anymore. It's like a personal thing. And I think that's why he tells his assistant, no, you have to make the documentary. You have to do all this work. And I believe, I like to choose in my head canon, my fan theory, is that his assistant does go on to make a great thing that clears Spider-Man and all that, whatever. But the reality is that his idealism was broken. His religion was broken because Gwen Stacy's neck was broken.
Right.
It snapped as hard as her neck.
Wow.
And then he was like, you know what? I'm out. See you later.
And that's why he couldn't believe in it anymore, though, ultimately.
Sure.
Is that he saw that they aren't perfect and that they can't be these paragons because they're going to fail. And I think that's a powerful message, too, though, like to an extent. But also I think it makes him kind of weak. You can't give up your entire life's work because you found out that like somebody failed you. Like that's I mean,
he did like break off his engagement with his wife because he found out superheroes were real. I thought that was kind of an odd moment. Can we talk about that for a hot second? Like,
I forgot about that. I
You're
read
just
that
like,
a couple weeks ago.
I can't marry you because I'm not manly enough.
Because I'm
anymore.
I'm scared that superheroes might. Well, is that after his brick face?
no, that's previous.
Is that
That's
pre-brick?
That's pre-brick.
pre-brick.
Right. It's PB.
So do you think the brick to the face actually made him realize that it doesn't
Maybe
matter
he
if he's
forgot
engaged?
that he broke up with his wife, and it's just like we're still getting married, right? And she's just like,
we know
yeah,
that.
let's go we're still getting married.
Amnesia because he got hit by a brick. But no, that's a good point. Like he starts out, his character arc, he actually starts out being afraid of what it means and the fact that he could never compare or protect his family in a world where superheroes exist, to being their champion and then being disillusioned by the fact that ultimately, even if you look at them as protectors for the average person and the fact that they had saved the planet multiple times, that in the end of the day, they could still fail you.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a downer ending, really, if you think about it.
It is.
For being the tone of the story I didn't think the ending really fit the tone of the story. Like the rest of the tone, he always seemed to be the optimistic one that pushed.
Yes.
And in the end, I felt like his character arc ended with him almost breaking.
It did.
I don't like that.
Me neither.
So that's my least favorite scene. Do you have a least favorite character? Is it Phil because he broke?
It is. What's his name? Jameson.
Oh, J. Jonah Jameson.
Yep.
Because he's a big stinky liar.
Yes.
And it's all because he's a coward.
Yes.
Ooh.
And
I
he
was actually
reminds
gonna-
me of way too much of current news outlets.
You know, Pat, I was gonna say the same thing.
Ooh.
And I'm
Jameson.
not specifically pointing out any one singular.
No, you're
news.
saying in
I'm
general.
saying all
In
of
general.
them.
Because that's how they all are now.
Yes.
It doesn't matter which side you're on.
Right.
And
You villainize the other side. It doesn't matter.
It
It
doesn't
doesn't
matter.
matter what they're saying.
Right.
You can
Ooh.
you can keep this
Ooh.
in or you can cut this out just in case we get axed. But technically all like all of our media companies are owned by 2 companies,
Yep.
I know.
Vanguard and BlackRock.
And they all
so that's-
send it out. It all gets sent out to the same thing, and that's why. Have you ever seen those videos?
Oh, that is
where,
so
like,
creepy. When, like,
where
all
like 30, 40, 50 different companies are all saying word for word the same thing because they all
it's
read
all-
off the same stuff.
It's all like the local channels too. It's not even like the
Oh, no, it's
major
not.
like national news. It's all just like your local, everyday schmuck that
Yep.
sits in front of there, and you line them all up. And
that's
word
why you
for
can't
word,
trust nothing.
They use all the same like key
Phrases
hit
and everything.
words.
Oh yeah. Sometimes it's literally word for word, and it doesn't matter which side of an argument you're on, depending on what it is.
Yep.
But that's partially the Associated Press releases too. I'm just saying.
Anyway,
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
we should probably get off this topic. but
Yeah, because
that-
we're gonna get heated.
That is my.
That's a hot button for
That
you.
is my least
That is-
favorite. Yes.
is the manipulation of the press.
Right, because
Yeah.
I am a mostly honest individual, and I hate that the people we're supposed to put our trust in are not.
Yep, I believe that. I can get behind that. I know Will does.
Yeah, we can, we're all in accordance. We have all come to an accord. We can
Sure.
move on. We can talk about this
For
off
this
air.
one time, I shall be in league with the disruptor.
I'll go with Jameson too then, because you're right. What he represents is the total opposite of what Phil represents in it.
Yeah, 100%.
Like Phil wants to bring the honest side, and maybe that's why he's disillusioned at the end, is because the honest side ends up being a downer.
Yeah,
But at the same time, he still doesn't. He still feels like they need the support because of what they do, but he can't do it himself anymore.
right.
That's actually a really heavy thought. Other than that, I don't know who I'd pick. Like, I can get behind Jameson being a villain, like being like, yeah, least favorite, because he was always kind of scummy, even in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like when their group was starting out and they all
Yeah.
seemed kind of on the up and up, Jameson was kind of a bum.
Right.
And so I can get behind that. Even though I think Jameson's a fun character to be antagonistic, I still think he's kind of a bum.
He's got some great memes about him.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah,
love
100%.
Yeah, one of Patrick's favorites.
Yeah, it is.
Is when he laughs at Peter, Tobey Maguire, and he goes, "Ah, you're serious?" That's a good one. Good gif.
Yep, it is.
Oh yeah. Anyway, so are we ready to rate it? What are we going to rate it out of? Photographs? Should we do photographs?
Did you two say, or did Will say his least favorite?
Yeah, Jameson. I
Jameson.
agree with you.
Yeah, we agreed.
Oh,
we
sorry.
we all reached an accord.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
I
a
could
half
be.
Philippe over here.
I could be contrary and like pick somebody else, but like I
made it-
think it suits.
I made a
It's
good
fine.
argument.
I could have said Green Goblin for killing Gwen Stacy,
Sure,
okay, but
you
he's
could've.
never he's not really in the comic.
He's
It
on
also-
the cover.
It also makes you realize how villains in the comic universe, like from the perspective of an average person, like these villains that go on the rampages and stuff, they're almost like forces of nature.
Yeah.
Like they're so beyond any normal person that you have to have these superhero teams and individuals like fight them because they can, because the average person can't do anything.
Right.
And there's that helplessness about it. I think there's some interesting themes in this comic.
There is.
I do. Anyway,
So, pictures?
you want to do photographs? Because
I think
they're
so.
always talking about the pictures he takes. Yeah, like why not,
Why
right?
not?
Why not? Photographs. Out of 5 photos, what'd you give it, Patrick?
I'm not sure if I want to give it a 2 or a 3.
Wow, a 2? That's low. So you did not enjoy this.
I mean,
Not really.
It's okay, but I wouldn't want to go back and read it again, and I wouldn't want to give it to anybody.
Yeah. Okay,
So,
think on that.
Yeah,
Think
I'll
on
think
it.
on it. I'll get back to you.
I was gonna say 3.
Yeah.
I'd give it a 3. I think it carried itself pretty well. It had some spots where it kind of like left some loose ends, but overall, I think it did a pretty good job. I liked how it seemed like it was accurate in its depiction of how citizens acted back in what had been the 1920s, 1930s.
I mean, like the 40s to all the way up to what
Yeah,
I
maybe
would
he
probably
took-
consider like the 70s, probably.
I mean, he was in World War II.
Yeah, but it would have ended like in the 60s or 70s,
Yeah.
I think. I don't think it was in the 80s.
But yeah, it seemed like the way the men conducted themselves and the way he, like treated his wife and everything was very like historically accurate
Yeah.
to how men and women behaved back in the day.
Yeah, I can see that.
And how they were talking about his secretary.
Yeah.
Like his assistant? So I would give it, part of me wants to give it as high as a 4 because I think it's a well done, unique piece. I think the artwork's awesome. Only because, like, for a story like this, I think a realistic art style lends to the credibility of it being a more grounded story. But I don't really like character pieces. And so I remembered reading this before and just being like, wow, that was really cool. And rereading it, even though it's been years and I don't really remember a lot of it, I thought, so you know what? I'm going to give it a 3. I'll give it it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. I could see some people, like, especially if you're like a hardcore Marvel fan or have gone back. I have some, they call them masterpiece editions or something, Marvel masterpieces or something like that, masterworks, and they're reprints of the original stories.
Okay.
And I have like the Fantastic Fours, and I have the Avengers, and some different things. I might have the X-Men's, and you can go back and read like the original publications that way.
Okay.
I know I have like 4 volumes of Spider-Man's, so it's interesting to get to see those stories in like a modern way. But yeah, I'd have to say, even though I felt that it had some good emotional moments, I think the themes that are woven throughout it are really well done. But I'd only give it a 3 probably. I think it was okay. But again, that has more to do with the fact it's less about an ongoing narrative and more about the character's journey. And I just find those types of stories to be more boring to me.
I guess I'll.
Did you decide on a 2 or 3?
I guess I'll go with a 3 because of how well it showed of how well it's paralleling our current society.
Oh yeah.
With all of the FUD that's being thrown around.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Especially, I even liked when he talked about the looting being different between when it was against the mutants and when it was in fear of the end of the world.
Yes.
And how even angry looting is different than fearful looting. I thought that was actually a really interesting observation. And in the last several years in our country, we've seen looting and things.
Quite a lot of it.
And so it's interesting to see something that showed like comparisons of that.
It is.
So, yeah. So this is an all-around 3. Interesting. Triple 3.
Really
I think that's
isn't.
the first time we've ever had like 3 3s. So,
It's not too bad.
no, and it's one of those where if you've read some stuff and like Patrick said, it's not something we would necessarily be like, "Oh, you have to read this."
No.
But if you find the history of Marvel Comics interesting, if you find a story, if you think the premise of a story about someone who is not a hero, who's on the ground being affected by heroes, sounds interesting, then maybe you should give this a try. Do you think this would be? I don't know if this would be friendly to new readers. I don't think it's unfriendly.
It wouldn't be
because
unfriendly,
because the
but
perspective is.
Right. It's not unfriendly to new readers, but I'm still not going to recommend this.
You don't really need to know about the events that
No, you
happen
don't.
in it because it's
But,
more
like,
about just
at that-
one guy.
at the same time, if you're like, hey, I like Marvel movies, I want to get into Marvel, and you read this,
It would
and
feel
You'd
bland.
be like, hey, like, what is this Galactus guy?
Right.
It is like a kind of a showcase, though, for like what heroes you might like, what villains, what arcs, because there's that point in the beginning when he's at war and he sees that huge group of Nazis and all the superheroes just like jump in.
Yeah.
You'd be like, what's that about?
Yeah, it's an
So,
interesting thought to like think, who is this for? Like,
Yeah.
like where do you fall in? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Hmm.
I can't think of anybody.
Yeah, it was okay. I'm glad we read it. I think it's a good thing to read for
Sure.
what we do,
Right.
because there's plenty to check out for what we do.
Right.
But I do think it's good to try out like standalone stories.
I agree.
And this was one of those. So yeah, there you go. It was
Mm-hmm.
okay. It was okay. We
It's
all were
okay.
like, eh. I forgot it was a character piece, or else I probably wouldn't have suggested. I'd be like, I don't want to read that again. There's a reason I didn't keep it when I sold my comic collection.
There you
But that
go.
Gwen Stacy issue gets me, man. It skews my whole perspective. And it's the last issue in the set, so it's
Right.
what stuck with me probably.
Probably.
But anyway, okay.
Which
Well,
is
that was
what
cool.
kind of panicked me when you asked me when we first got here. Like, did you read the whole thing? And I was like, yeah. I read the whole thing as long as it ends where I think it ends.
Well, yeah, and like I said, least favorite scene, it just ends so abruptly. It feels like it just ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's
I'm
going,
like-
it's going, it's going, it's over. Like
Like, did it actually continue after that? And I was just fooled.
I looked too. I was like, is there something that's missing? Nope. Nope.
Nope.
That's just how it ends. Because that's more like real life. And I don't like that.
The ends because he retired.
Yep.
Who likes
Eh,
real
what a
life?
boring real life ending.
Anyway,
Yep. Anything else? We good?
I don't think so.
Nope.
Okay.
Nothing else.
Well, Montucky, you
I'm
got this.
Patrick.
This is Will.
And I'm Chris. And we are Guys with Issues all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time.
You can catch Guys with Issues anywhere you can find your favorite podcasts.
Or check out our website at guyswithissues.com where you can listen, find reading lists to follow along, and get to know us better.
Send us emails to longbox@guyswithissues.com and tell us your thoughts or send us suggestions on what we should read next. We would love to hear from our listener.
No.
Why aren't you guys any fun?